I've done a video already, and I'm going to do this one because I've been watching the news, and every time you see a story regarding the subject of the Confederate flag, there's this idiocy behind it that says because one person says it's wrong, everybody else has to say, okay, it's wrong too. And that's not a rational thought, because if you have the right as an American to say, I don't agree with that or I don't agree with this, that's each individual's choice. But it shouldn't be the mass of individuals saying you don't have the right to do that anymore. Because I don't think there's been any change in the Constitution in the past couple of years, at least since Obama took office, that says, oh, by the way, the Bill of Rights is now void. It's been annulled. The U.S. Constitution no longer exists. They haven't been telling us that, but it certainly sounds like that's exactly what's happened. Because whenever something comes up that people don't like, there isn't any kind of, well, let's have a discussion about this. Or, well, you know, that's your opinion. There's none of that anymore. It's like, we don't agree, therefore you don't have the right to do that or do this. And that's irrational to begin with, but it's stupidity, it's idiocy to say that to somebody who knows that we all have our individual right to expression. And it's under the Bill of Rights, it's under the Fourth Amendment of freedom of speech, freedom of expression. Nobody cares about that anymore. Because if these documents still exist and these laws still exist, then they're still enforced. If they're not enforced and people are just kind of doing their own thing and we're not taking it seriously of what these documents say, then we're procrastinating, because we're saying that we are an American continent. We are a country of free-willed people who have freedom and choice and liberty and everything else, but we aren't practicing that because our society now accepts whatever. I cannot even try to pretend who it is on high enough level of saying these things that, you know, they don't agree with something. The Confederate flag is the definitive answer. And then you got these governors just in 24 hours saying, well, we're not going to allow that anymore. It's like, who gave them that right to say that these things aren't tolerated or acceptable anymore? Because you're basically stamping out the law. When you do that, the law has to be upheld, and that means you go through the procedure of having it changed, but you don't just say, I'm not going to allow that, and therefore whatever law exists is just completely, it's been annihilated. It's been void because of whatever pressure that the government's under to do these types of changes. That makes no sense at all. And our society continually goes down farther and farther down into obscurity, because nobody is upholding what was put there, and that's the law of the land, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights. The police are being shunned because they're shooting people. They don't just shoot blacks, but the blacks are the only people that they're emphasizing on the news and in everything that's going on. And it's like you take a photograph of something and you look at it. If you're not paying attention, you're not going to know anything in that picture, because you don't care what's in the picture except for maybe what somebody who took the photograph tells you. Well, that's how our society is looking at things going on around us right now. They want to only hear the things that somebody else tells them, like, that's not right, don't do that anymore. And then they just kind of like accept it and say, yes, sir, I won't do that. Is that a rational mentality as a society to say, we're going to only do whatever our government tells us to do? Or in the point of this, somebody high up and I'm not saying it's Obama, it could even be higher than him, is dictating what is and isn't acceptable anymore, instead of it being that individual choice of each American citizen to say, I don't agree with that, or I don't agree with this, and that everybody accepts that philosophy. Instead of that, it's not even seen that way anymore. It's like one individual high up says it, and then the media filters it down into our minds and into our TVs, and we have to accept that because they tell us to. No, that is not freedom of choice, and it certainly isn't free thought, because somebody else is telling us now things that we have to accept, whether it be logical or not logical. And if you are watching this video and you're asking yourself, where's all this stuff coming from? It's coming not only out of the computer you're actually using, it's coming from high definition television. It's coming from your iPhone or your smartphone or any kind of an electronic device that you use where you're watching this stuff. You know, you could be even watching this right now from a mobile device of some kind, a BlackBerry or whatever it is. Every single second, the government not only monitors it, but I guarantee you they're sending things through it. And that's what's brainwashing our society into accepting the things that's going on. And I've done a video, as I've said earlier, about the Confederate battle flag. This is a coordinated attack against things that the black community don't like. They've never liked the Confederate flag. And so now, every opportunity they have to attack things that they don't like, they're going to do it. And 2 days now on NBC News, they've done reports about how they hate the Confederate flag because it exists. And they don't ask the question, does the flag itself cause hate? If it does, why aren't every person that sees it killing other people, like this one individual who shot and killed these 8 people in church? He did that on his own. He did it of his own free will. And that flag is just being used to create incitement and hate against what they see that it represents. He used that flag in a photograph of himself, and now people think because of him showing that flag, the flag incites hate in everybody. And that's not true. See, that's called rational thought, what I just told you in a nutshell. Rational thought is you think it out. You use your mind and you think, is it right? Is it wrong? This guy used the flag for one reason, as a scapegoat for himself. He figured, I'm going to get arrested, so I'm going to use this as a scapegoat, and then it's going to incite more and more people. Maybe he didn't even do it. Maybe our government did it. They set this whole thing up and used it as a scapegoat to say, here's another opportunity for us to show that the black community is being subjugated or they're being hated because of this particular piece of cloth that for it's been 150 years since the end of the Civil War. And they've always used that as an excuse to say that it represented slavery. That was their opinion. That is not what it represented during the time that this country was fighting between the states. They've said it at least twice on the news in the last 2 days that the Confederate flag is a symbol of a time in history when 2 different parts of this country fought against each other. It had nothing to do with slavery, but the blacks have used it as that excuse. And therefore now they're using it even more every single day to say this is wrong, it shouldn't be allowed, and the masses of our country are saying, you're absolutely right. You know, it's like Walking Dead, the TV series. People don't have mentalities to accept their own thought as being individual being rational, because they accept whatever the government says, whatever the media tells us to do. Oh, yes, I agree. And it just, it blows your mind. It blows my mind. Now, I don't watch television probably like most people do, because I don't see anything good on television anymore. I don't see these reality shows being any entertainment. It's just, for them, it's a mean to an ends as far as the networks. They just want something that creates audience participation, and all the time they're doing all these things, they're just kind of piping in all this stuff into your mind. And you think, well, I'm crazy. Well, if I'm crazy, then why is all this happening around us and nobody seems to care to say that's not right? Everybody should have the choice to decide what they want. It shouldn't be our government or a governor of your state telling you, I don't agree with that, so we're going to get rid of it. You know, and that's what he just did. In Texas, 2,000 license plates are being recalled. You know why? It ain't because it violated any law. It's because somebody says, this represents hate, so we're going to get rid of it. You know? And the Sons of the Confederate Veterans have been around for decades, and all of a sudden in one day the governor says, I'm going to get rid of this because it represents hate? I mean, where's that's stupidity. You know, you don't get rid of something just because all of a sudden this voice speaks to you out of nowhere and the masses say, yes, I agree. Yes, I will obey. You know, man, that's stupid. But anyway, getting back to what I was trying to say in this video, we have to turn the light bulbs back on. And that's, everybody's brain has to be able to decide for themselves what they want to do. And that is to have a voice, to have a say of what's going on, and not let somebody else dictate to you of what it really is about, which is, it's either each individual having the choice to decide what they want to do and not the government taking that right away and saying it's in your best interest to do that, or you become a zombie like all the rest of society and you just kind of shun it off and think it doesn't matter anymore. And that's what's wrong with this country. We don't rationalize anything because we think the government is going to take care of us and the government is going to do everything. And somebody else, whoever it is that says it's right or wrong, that's okay by me, and they accept it. And that's what's wrong in America. So when you hear people saying on the news that this is wrong because somebody else tells you it's wrong, hey, make your own decision. Don't let somebody else tell you it's right or wrong. You know what you think is right, and it should be your individual decision. It shouldn't be somebody higher up making those decisions for you. And all you have to do to believe what I've just said is just watch the news once in a while and see how people are becoming more and more like robots because we all accept what somebody tells us. Whether it's right or wrong, it doesn't matter. They are being told it's something good or it's not, and therefore everybody else believes it. Everybody else accepts it. And that is the beginning of the end of civilization, because civilization means that everybody has rational ideas and thoughts, and that's how everything functions, and it all works because everybody is individual. And that's not what's happening. Our country is going down the toilet bowl because people don't care about thinking anymore. They want everybody else to do that for them. And that's why our country cannot endure even another 2 years if people will not stand up for what they know is right and take a stand and say, what you're telling me is right or wrong is not right. And therefore, if you're not going to stand by the U.S. Constitution and what it stands for, then get rid of it. Because you're lying to everybody if you do. Thank you again.